there's a website, middle-aged dog killers with fake breasts.com, and they sent one of their models down to CECOT to entertain the prisoners. This is what she said.
Today and visiting this facility. And first of all, I want to thank El Salvador and their president for their partnership with the United States of America to bring our terrorists here and to incarcerate them and have consequences for the violence that they have perpetuated in our communities. I also want everybody to know, if you come to our country illegally, this is one of the consequences you could face. First of all, do not come to our country illegally. You will be removed and you will be prosecuted. But know that this facility is one of the tools in our toolkit that we will use if you commit crimes against the American people.
Yes. I don't think you could find a better example of the fact that we are ruled by criminals than Kristi Noem standing outside of a very clear example of cruel and unusual punishment, gleefully bragging that we're doing this to people. As we always knew would, we just didn't know when. The stories are coming out about what the treatment in that facility is like, and it's as horrific as you would have imagined. This is ProPublica. On March 15th, President Donald Trump's administration sent more than 230 Venezuelan immigrants to a maximum security prison in El Salvador. Without providing evidence, Trump has called the men some of the most violent savages on the face of the earth. Last week, the men were released as suddenly as they'd been taken away. Now the truth of all their stories, one by one, will begin to be told. This is just a little bit of a news report summing up some of what's been coming out since they've been released.
Post has revealed some of the harrowing details shared by...
I was just going to say, before we play this, we should just mention that a vast majority of the deportees had no criminal history at all.
Yeah.
None.
Washington Post has revealed some of the harrowing details shared by people who were detained in CECOT. Writing, in the 4 months they spent there, the detainees said that they were beaten repeatedly with wooden bats. One man says he was robbed of thousands of dollars and denied access to lawyers or a chance to call his family. Another man said he was hit so hard he lost half a molar. And listen to what yet another detainee told Sky News.
We were constantly beaten. We suffered physical, verbal, and psychological abuse. There wasn't a day where the wardens didn't tell us that the only way we'll leave that place was if we were dead. In fact, the first words that the head of the prison said to us after the first beating was, "Welcome to hell."
Now, even if you do support mass deportations, why on earth would you support this? Why? They didn't do anything. It's deport them back to Venezuela, which is ultimately what happened. There was no reason not to just deport them to Venezuela, even if you were going to deport them. Why send them to a foreign torture prison in a country that they're not from? This is, a lot of times liberals, they're very often fond of saying of conservatives, the cruelty is the point. Well, you've definitely lived down to that. A lot of people who identify that way have proven them right. What else is the point here other than the cruelty? There's no reason to do this to these people. Hell on Earth, a Venezuelan deportee describes abuse in El Salvadoran prison. It's from the Los Angeles Times. When Jose Reyes Barrios and other Venezuelan deportees entered a maximum security prison in El Salvador in the spring, he said guards greeted them with taunts. "Welcome to El Salvador, you sons of bitches," Reyes Barrios said the guards told them. "You've arrived at the terrorist confinement center. Hell on earth." What followed, Reyes Barrios said, were the darkest months of his life. He said he was regularly beaten on his neck, ribs, and head. He and other prisoners were given little food and forced to drink contaminated water. They slept on metal beds with no mattresses in overcrowded cells, listening to the screams of other inmates. Quote, There was blood, vomit, and people passed out on the floor, he said. This is from Fact Post, former CECOT detainee. We were constantly beaten. We suffered physical, verbal, and psychological abuse. There wasn't a day where the wardens didn't tell us that the only way we'll leave that place was if we were dead. In fact, the first words the head of the prison said to us after the first beating was "Welcome to hell." Reyes Barrios, back to the Los Angeles Times, 36, was one of more than 250 Venezuelans sent to El Salvador from the United States in March after President Trump invoked the 1798 Alien Enemies Act to deport alleged members of the Tren de Aragua gang without normal immigration procedures. Many of the men, including Reyes Barrios, insist that they have no ties to the gang and were denied due process. After enduring months in detention in El Salvador, they were sent home last week as part of a prisoner exchange deal that included Venezuela's release of several detained Americans. Venezuela's attorney general said interviews with the men revealed systemic torture inside the Salvadoran prison, including daily beatings, rancid food, and sexual abuse. One of the former detainees, Nair Adrian Leon Rangel, filed a claim Thursday with the Homeland Security Department, accusing the U.S. of removing him without due process and asking for $1.3 million in damages. Here's another video showing some of the other prisoners.
Arturo Suarez tearfully reunited with his family in Venezuela on Tuesday after being released from a months-long detention in El Salvador's notorious CECOT prison.
Pensé en mi hija, pensé en mi esposa, pensé en mi hermano, en mi familia.
I thought of my daughter, thought of my wife, thought of my brothers and my family. That gave me strength not to give up, not to let myself die. And I didn't let myself. I didn't let myself because I'm a warrior. I'm Venezuelan. And we made ourselves heard in El Salvador.
Suarez, a singer, was one of the first of more than 250 Venezuelans to arrive home after being sent back to Venezuela last week in a prisoner exchange. The Venezuelans were sent to El Salvador from the United States in March after U.S. President Donald Trump invoked the 1798 Alien Enemies Act to deport alleged gang members without normal immigration procedures. Suarez had gone to the U.S. to boost his music career, according to his wife. Family members and lawyers of many of the men deny they had gang ties. Suarez said the guards at the CECOT prison beat prisoners and told them they would only leave dead. His comments tallied with other allegations of abuse made by former prisoners in videos broadcast on state television. Venezuela's attorney general said on Monday that his office will investigate El Salvador's President Nayib Bukele and other top officials for the alleged abuse of the detainees.
I mean, I'm sorry, man. That guy looks like a bad guy in a low-budget movie about a drug-running head of state.
Yes, yes.
A one-time professional soccer player, Reyes Barrios, left Venezuela last year amid political unrest and in search of economic opportunity. He entered the U.S. on September 1st at the Otay Mesa border, crossing in California under the asylum program known as CBP-1. He was immediately detained, accused of being a gangster, and placed in custody of Immigration and Customs Enforcement. A court statement earlier this year from his attorney, Lynette Tobin, said authorities tied Reyes Barrios to Tren de Aragua based solely on an arm tattoo and a social media post in which he made a hand gesture that U.S. authorities interpreted as a gang sign. The tattoo, a crown sitting atop a soccer ball with a rosary and the word Dios, or God, is actually a homage to his favorite team, Real Madrid, Tobin wrote. She said the hand gesture is sign language for I love you. Reyes Barrios was not aware of the controversy over deportations as he was ushered in handcuffs from the airport in San Salvador to the country's infamous terrorism confinement center, also known as CECOT. There, Raiz Barrios said he and other inmates were forced to walk on their knees as their heads were shaved and they were repeatedly beaten. He said he was put in a cell with 21 other men, all Venezuelans. Guards meted out measly portions of beans and tortillas and told the inmates they, quote, would never eat chicken or meat again. Raiz Barrios said guards told him and the other detained Venezuelans that they would spend the rest of their lives in the prison. Raiz Barrios said he started praying at night, quote, God protect my mother and my children. I entrust my soul to you because I think I'm going to die. Then several days ago, he and the other prisoners were awakened by yelling in the early morning hours. Guards told them they had 20 minutes to take showers and prepare to leave. At that moment, we all shouted with joy, Raiz Barrios said. I think that was my only happy day at CECOT. After arriving in Venezuela, Barrios and the other returnees spent days in government custody, undergoing medical checks and interviews with officials. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has seized on the treatment of prisoners, airing videos on state television in which some deportees describe suffering abuses, including sexual assault, beatings, and being shot at with pellet guns. Venezuelan authorities say they are investigating Bukele over the alleged abuse. Okay, you got to ask yourself at this point, if you're part of the "this is what I voted for" brigade, really? This is what you voted for. This is what you voted for. You know, I know a lot of folks with the whole "this is what I voted for" like to think of themselves as very macho. Do you really think that if you were in a very poor country where your family lacked economic opportunity and there was this place to the north you might be able to go to improve the situation for your children, for your wife, you wouldn't do it? Now, if you feel that this is bad for America, so these people should be deported, okay, you know, you can have that belief, I think, without being a monster. I don't think you can believe that this is what should be done to these people without being a monster. And I think a lot of people who have been convinced that the reason their life sucks is because of immigration. And I've said many times, I don't believe that the immigration at the border crisis, such as it was under Biden, was unintentional. I agree with that. My personal belief is the unions were getting too strong and they wanted to destabilize the labor market. That's my opinion. I'm not saying there's nothing to see there, but that doesn't mean that you want to round up these people and literally send them for torture. If that is who we are as a nation, on what grounds do you assert that this nation has a right to even exist, much less that this nation has some kind of moral authority over other nations? If you're willing to literally torture people for nothing more than coming here to try to have a better life, well, this is not that shining city on the hill that we are supposed to be. And at that point, what are you so proud of? Like, why would you be proud to be American if America represents torturing people who come to live that American dream we're supposedly so proud of?
Yeah, I mean, I would take it one step further and say that, a country that, aids and abets a genocide in Gaza, what standing do we have to be high and mighty about anything, including immigration law?
Yep.
Right. Well,
Yep.
so what? We dropped 2,000-pound bombs on babies, and then we're going to tell these people, hey, there was a fence there you shouldn't have crossed. Oh, well,
Right.
sorry.
Yeah.
Right. Now, look, I understand, if you feel that, mass deportations are necessary. Like I said, I was against mass deportations from jump because I had a feeling they would be implemented in a very cruel way. Even I didn't have this on my bingo card. Even I didn't have this on my bingo card. But okay, like I said, you could support deportations without supporting torture. This is torture. There's no question what this is. This is not a question of do you support deportations or do you support a tighter border? I'm probably more liberal on immigration than a lot of people, but whatever. I mean, that's a debate you can have. This is not that debate. This is a debate about torture. This is a debate about cruel and unusual punishment. Even if these people were gang members, there's still this thing called cruel and unusual punishments. Like, obviously, if you're a gang member and you're a violent criminal, you have to be detained and imprisoned for the safety of the people, right? Nobody's arguing against that. But there is a strong argument to be made against torture in all cases. In all cases, it's just
that's unconstitutional. I mean, frankly, knowing the conditions of even our prison system, you could argue we're in constant violation of cruel and unusual punishment.
Yes.
This is obviously next level, which is why they have to outsource it.
Yes, obviously. Now, as I understand, there were a little over 200 deportees to CECOT who were Venezuelan, and then there were a few dozen who were Salvadoran. Now, when it comes to the Salvadorans, unfortunately, there's really not much we could do because they've been deported to their country, so it's their country, it's Bukele's jurisdiction, and we can feel how we feel about that. There's really nothing we could do about that. In terms of deportation of people from Venezuela to this third-party country for profit, which is human trafficking, by the way. The Salvadoran government's getting paid a lot of money to house these people. That is obviously way beyond the pale, even if you are a border hawk. And so, this is just absolutely horrible. And as I understand now, is it all of the Venezuelans who were deported there? What did they say? Over 200 were sent back to Venezuela. So are they cleared out
I'm
now?
under the impression they made a deal to send all the Venezuelans to Venezuela.
Okay, so at this point, there are no deportees at CECOT who are not Salvadoran.
Sounds that way.
At this point, yeah. So it's a good sign that they did this and that they haven't sent more there. Because, they are clearly,
I think they started getting nervous about it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're not hearing talk about, hey, we need Bukele to build more. Remember when Trump had him here a couple months ago? You got to build more places. You got to send more people here. Hopefully, they are showing some restraints in that department because of the outcry. Because, look, just as Israel forcing everybody to, abide by the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism. You're not doing Israel or Jewish people any favors by doing that. You're not doing the cause of mass deportations any favors by torturing people. If you look at the polling that came out of Atlas Intel, most reputable pollster of the last two cycles, overwhelming support for what Trump ran on and what his mandate was, which is deporting violent criminals. Right? Overwhelming support for that.
Right.
When you take it to this level, by the time you get to deporting people to third-party countries, you're talking about support. I forget the exact number, but it was well under, not 50, well under 40. Like almost everyone opposes what they're doing with CECOT.
The
so
good
if
news
you really,
is most people are not sick bastards.
Most people are not sick bastards. Right. So the best way to undermine your argument for mass deportations is to use it to use the deportation clause as an excuse to torture people in foreign prisons where they have no business being sent to. And
to bring the villain from a Michael Bay movie to the Oval Office to giggle about it.
What's that?
And to bring the villain from a Michael Bay movie to the Oval Office to giggle about it.
Right. Exactly. So, so it is like I said, it is somewhat encouraging that they haven't sent more people there and that the people from the third-party countries have been sent out, because that's obviously, as far as the Salvadorans, there's nothing we could really do about that. He has jurisdiction in that case.
Please clap.